There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain, doors seem closed, prayers seem delayed, efforts feel unnoticed. You cry silently, you wait patiently, you wonder secretly, and in that quiet space of confusion and pressure, God whispers, "Be still, your breakthrough is coming." Being still does not mean doing nothing. It does not mean giving up. It does not mean accepting defeat. Being still means trusting when you don't understand. It means standing firm when everything around you feels like it's shaking. It means believing that God is working even when you cannot see movement. Some of you are tired of waiting, tired of trying, tired of hoping. But understand this, delay is not denial, silence is not abandonment, the process is not punishment. Sometimes God slows things down because he is setting something bigger up. When the storm is loud, faith must be louder. When fear whispers, trust must shout. Your breakthrough is not based on your timing. It is based on divine timing. And divine timing is always perfect. Before every major miracle in the Bible, there was a period of waiting. Before promotion, there was preparation. Before victory, there was testing. Before the breakthrough, there was pressure. Pressure produces power. Waiting builds endurance. Silence strengthens faith. What you think is a setback may actually be a setup for something greater than you imagined. God is not ignoring you. He is positioning you. He is aligning people. He is removing obstacles. He is strengthening your character. He is preparing you to handle what you've been praying for. You asked for elevation. Elevation requires preparation. You asked for favor. Favor requires growth. You asked for breakthrough. Breakthrough requires faith. Sometimes God says, "Be still," because he is fighting battles you cannot see. While you're worrying, he's working. While you're doubting, he's designing your destiny. While you're crying, he's crafting your comeback. The seed does not break the soil overnight. It stays hidden. It grows in darkness. It strengthens underground before it ever sees the light. And then one day, suddenly, it breaks through. Your life may feel underground right now. Hidden. Pressed, covered, but growth is happening where no one can see it. Being still is an act of power. It says, I trust you, God, even when I don't understand. It says, I will not panic, I will not quit, I will not doubt the promise. But breakthrough often comes at the point where you are about to give up. One more prayer, one more step, one more day of faith, one more moment of endurance. The enemy wants you to move in fear. God wants you to stand in faith. Your breakthrough will not just change your situation, it will change your story. The pain you feel now will become the testimony you share later. Being still is one of the hardest instructions to follow when life feels unstable, when bills are due, when doors are closing, when relationships are shaking, when opportunities seem delayed. Everything inside you wants to react. You want to chase it. You want to control it. You want immediate answers. But God says, be still. But stillness is not weakness, it is controlled strength. It is emotional discipline. It is spiritual maturity. It is choosing trust over panic. Uncertainty creates noise. Your mind starts racing. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I lose this opportunity? Fear multiplies questions. Anxiety creates worst-case scenarios. Doubt becomes louder than faith. And in that moment, stillness feels unnatural. But being still means refusing to let fear make your decisions. It means saying, even if I don't see the outcome, I trust the one who holds it. It means understanding that you do not have to understand everything to believe that God is working. Trust does not require full clarity. It requires confidence in God's character. When you are uncertain, your instinct is to move quickly. But sometimes moving too fast creates mistakes. Sometimes reacting emotionally damages what patience could have preserved. Being still allows wisdom to lead instead of impulse. Stillness is choosing prayer before reaction. Stillness is choosing patience before frustration. Stillness is choosing faith before fear. Uncertainty tests your foundation. It reveals what you truly believe. It exposes whether your peace depends on circumstances or on God. If your peace only exists when things are going well, It is fragile. But when you learn to be still in chaos, your peace becomes unshakable. Think about a storm. The winds are violent. The rain is heavy. Everything above ground looks chaotic. But beneath the surface, deep roots keep a tree standing. Stillness is like those roots. It keeps you grounded when everything around you feels unstable. Trusting God in uncertainty means believing that delays are strategic. It means believing that closed doors are protection. It means believing that confusion today may lead to clarity tomorrow. You may not know how the situation will resolve. You may not know when the breakthrough will arrive. You may not know why the process is taking so long. But stillness says, I may not know how, but I know who. But there is power in quiet confidence. The world expects panic. The world expects complaints. The world expects breakdowns. But when you remain calm in uncertain seasons, you demonstrate deep trust. Being still also protects your energy. When you constantly worry, you drain yourself. When you overthink, you exhaust yourself. When you try to control everything, you overwhelm yourself. Stillness conserves strength for the right moment. Trust grows in uncertainty. You cannot build trust when everything is predictable. Faith only develops when you are required to believe without visible evidence. Uncertainty stretches you. It strengthens your patience. It deepens your prayer life. It matures your character. Sometimes God allows uncertainty not to harm you, but to refine you. Being still is saying, I will not let temporary confusion destroy my permanent promise. I will not allow fear to cancel my faith. I will not run ahead of God's timing. When you are still, you give God room to move. You stop interfering with his plan through anxiety-driven decisions. You stop forcing doors that were not meant for you. You stop chasing what he is trying to replace. Stillness creates alignment. It positions you correctly. It keeps you steady until the right opportunity appears. Uncertainty does not mean you are lost. It may mean you are transitioning. It may mean you are being repositioned. It may mean God is clearing space for something greater. And in that uncomfortable in-between season, when you are not where you used to be, but not yet where you are going, being still becomes your greatest strength. Trust is not passive. It is active surrender. It is daily choosing belief over doubt. It is waking up and deciding today, I will not panic. Today, I will stand firm. Today, I will trust, even when answers are delayed, even when results are unseen, even when progress feels slow. Being still in uncertainty is declaring that your confidence is not in circumstances. It is in God. And that kind of stillness builds unshakable faith. One of the greatest tests of faith is delay. When you pray and nothing changes, when you work hard and see no immediate reward, when you prepare, plan, and push forward, but the results don't arrive on your timeline, in those moments, it's easy to assume that what you hope for isn't coming. It's easy to mistake waiting for rejection, but delay does not mean denial. Delay is often preparation in disguise. It is the space between promise and fulfillment. It is the season where growth happens beneath the surface. What feels like a pause may actually be progress you cannot yet see. We live in a world that expects instant results, instant messages, instant food, instant responses. And when things don't move quickly, we interpret it as failure. But God does not operate on human urgency. He operates on divine wisdom. A delayed answer does not mean a forgotten prayer. A delayed opportunity does not mean a closed destiny. A delayed breakthrough does not mean a canceled promise. Sometimes the delay is protecting you. If certain blessings arrive too early, you might not be ready to handle them. If certain doors open too soon, you might not have the strength or maturity to sustain what's on the other side. Growth takes time. Character takes time. Wisdom takes time. Stability takes time. And the greater the calling, the longer the preparation. Think about how valuable things are formed. Diamonds endure pressure. Gold is refined in fire. A seed grows underground long before it breaks the surface. The process is slow, but the outcome is strong. Delay strengthens your endurance. It teaches you patience. It forces you to develop consistency instead of relying on excitement. It trains you to trust beyond emotions. When something is denied, it is permanently withheld. But when something is delayed, it is being positioned correctly, strategically, positioned perfectly. Sometimes the delay is not about, it's about timing. It's other people must align. Circumstances must shift. Certain doors must close before the right one opens. Pieces you cannot see are being arranged. In the waiting season, doubt tries to convince you to quit. It whispers, it's not happening. It says, maybe it wasn't meant for you. But delay is not a verdict, it is a process. There are blessings that would have destroyed you had they come too soon. There are opportunities that would have overwhelmed you without preparation. There are levels of success that require internal growth before external elevation. Delay builds depth. Without depth, success becomes fragile. Waiting also reveals your motives. Do you trust God only when things move quickly? Or do you trust Him when the clock seems silent? Delay separates emotional faith from committed faith. Anyone can believe when doors are opening. Real faith believes when doors appear closed. Sometimes delay is redirection. What you asked for may not be what you truly need. And instead of denying you, God may be upgrading you. A child may cry when a parent says not yet. But not yet is different from no. Not yet means timing matters. Not yet means growth is still happening. Not yet means something better may be coming. In delay, you learn discipline. In delay, you develop resilience. In delay, you discover strength you didn't know you had. When everything comes easily, character remains shallow. But when you wait, when you endure, when you remain faithful despite silence, your foundation becomes solid. Delay also increases gratitude. When you finally receive what you waited for, you value it more, you protect it more, you appreciate it deeply. The waiting season is uncomfortable because it stretches you. It forces you to release control. It challenges your timeline. It confronts your impatience. But delay is not destruction. It is development. Every day of waiting is shaping you. Every unanswered moment is strengthening you. Every silent season is refining you. Do not let the length of the wait convince you that the promise is lost. Some breakthroughs take time because they are meant to last. Delay does not cancel destiny. It prepares it. And sometimes the very thing you thought was taking too long will arrive at the exact moment you realize the timing was perfect all along. There are seasons in life when heaven feels quiet. You pray, but the response seems delayed. You seek direction, but clarity does not immediately come. You cry out for reassurance, but all you hear is silence. In those moments, it is easy to assume that God has stepped away, that He is distant, or that He is no longer paying attention. But silence from God does not mean absence. Silence is not abandonment. Silence is not rejection. Silence is not proof that you are alone. Sometimes silence is strategy. Sometimes silence is growth. Sometimes silence is God teaching you to walk by faith and not by constant confirmation. Think about a teacher during an exam. The teacher is present in the room, but silent. The silence does not mean the teacher left. It means the test is in progress. The silence allows you to apply what you've already been taught. In the same way, when God is silent, it may be because He is allowing you to exercise the faith, strength, and wisdom you've already received. A silence stretches your trust. When God speaks clearly, it's easy to feel confident. When answers come quickly, it's easy to believe. But when heaven is quiet, faith must mature. Faith must stand without visible signs. Faith must breathe without immediate reassurance. Silence teaches you to rely on who God is, not just on what He says in the moment. Sometimes we want constant direction. Turn here, move now, why here? But growth happens when you begin to recognize His voice internally and trust His character even when no new instructions come. God's silence is not emptiness, it is often preparation. In silence, He may be strengthening your patience. In silence, He may be shaping your character. In silence, he may be working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet see. Just because you do not hear him does not mean he is not moving. Just because you do not see change does not mean progress is not happening. There are battles fought in realms you cannot perceive. There are obstacles being removed before they ever reach you. There are dangers being blocked that you will never know existed. Silence can also protect you from premature movement. If every step were explained, you might rush ahead. If every detail were revealed, you might rely on your own understanding instead of trust. Silence forces you to surrender control. It challenges you to say, even when I do not hear you, I know you are here. That kind of faith is deeper than emotional excitement. It is rooted confidence. When God feels silent, it is often an invitation to draw closer rather than pull away. Instead of assuming distance, you lean in. Instead of giving up, you press forward. Instead of letting doubt grow, you strengthen your belief. Silence also exposes your foundation. Do you trust God only when you feel his presence strongly? Or do you trust him even when emotions are quiet? Feelings change, circumstances shift, but God's presence is not dependent on your perception. He is constant. Even when your emotions are unstable, there are times when silence builds spiritual endurance. If every prayer were answered instantly, you would never develop persistence. If every request were fulfilled immediately, patience would never grow. Silence builds resilience in your spirit. It teaches you to seek God for who he is, not just for what he provides. And sometimes silence is the calm before a shift. Just before major breakthroughs, there can be stillness. Just before doors open, there can be quiet preparation. Just before clarity arrives, there can be temporary confusion. Silence does not equal inactivity. Think about construction behind closed doors. From the outside, it looks unchanged. But inside, walls are being built, structures are being reinforced, foundations are being strengthened. When the doors finally open, everything is ready. In the same way, God may be building something you cannot yet see. When you feel alone, remind yourself silence is not absence. When you feel uncertain, remind yourself silence is not rejection. When you feel forgotten, remind yourself silence is not abandonment. God does not disappear in quiet seasons. He remains steady. He remains present. He remains faithful. Even in silence, he is near. Even in silence, he is working. Even in silence, he is guiding. And learning to trust him in the quiet seasons builds a faith that cannot be shaken by noise. Waiting is one of the most uncomfortable seasons a person can experience. It stretches your patience. It tests your emotions. It challenges your faith. When you know what you want, when you've prayed for it, worked for it, prepared for it, but it still hasn't arrived, the waiting can feel heavy. But waiting is not wasted time. Waiting seasons build strength and endurance in ways immediate success never could. When everything happens quickly, you enjoy the excitement. But when something takes time, you develop resilience. You develop discipline. You develop depth. Waiting forces you to grow internally before you are elevated externally. In a waiting season, you learn how to manage your thoughts. You learn how to fight discouragement. You learn how to silence doubt. You learn how to remain consistent even when motivation fades. That is strength. That is endurance. Anyone can stay committed when results are visible. True endurance is revealed when results are delayed. Waiting builds emotional maturity. Instead of reacting impulsively, you begin to respond wisely. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you become selective. Instead of panicking at every delay, you remain steady. Strength is not developed in comfort. It is developed in stretching seasons. Think about physical training. Muscles grow when they are pushed beyond comfort. There is resistance, there is strain, there is repetition. The process is uncomfortable, but the result is power. In the same way, spiritual and emotional strength grow through resistance. Waiting is resistance against impatience. In waiting seasons, you discover what you're made of. You discover whether your commitment is temporary or anchored. You discover whether your faith depends on speed or on trust. Endurance means continuing forward even when progress is slow. It means showing up daily. It means doing the right thing repeatedly, even when recognition is absent. Waiting teaches consistency. It teaches discipline. It teaches humility. It also builds gratitude. When you have waited long for something, you value it more when it arrives. You protect it more, you steward it better. Quick blessings can be taken for granted. Earned and waited for blessings are cherished. Waiting seasons also remove distractions. Sometimes God slows things down so you can focus, so you can refine your priorities, so you can strengthen your foundation, so you can eliminate habits or mindsets that would sabotage your future. If everything moved fast, you might carry weaknesses into your next level. Waiting allows refinement. Endurance is the ability to remain steady under pressure, and pressure always accompanies waiting. Questions arise. Comparisons try to creep in. You see others moving ahead. You see others celebrating breakthroughs. And you wonder, when will it be my turn? But endurance says, my journey is different. My timing is unique. Waiting builds confidence in God's plan rather than competition with others. It also teaches you to separate emotion from commitment. There will be days in your waiting season when you don't feel hopeful, days when you don't feel strong, days when doubt whispers loudly. But endurance means you continue anyway. You continue praying, you continue preparing, you continue believing, you continue improving. That consistency forms inner strength. Waiting also deepens your roots. When a tree grows slowly, its roots dig deeper into the ground. Deeper roots mean greater stability. When storms come, shallow roots collapse. Deep roots stand firm. Your waiting season is deepening your roots. If everything you prayed for arrived instantly, you might not have the strength to sustain it. But endurance built in waiting prepares you to handle long-term success, responsibility, and impact. Waiting shapes character. It removes entitlement. It replaces impatience with wisdom. It turns fragile hope into durable faith. And while it may feel like nothing is happening, something powerful is forming inside you. Strength that cannot be shaken easily. Endurance that cannot be broken quickly. Faith that does not collapse under pressure. Waiting seasons are not pauses in your life. They are training grounds, training your patience, training your discipline, training your mindset, training your faith. And when the breakthrough finally comes, it will not just be a reward, it will be a reflection of the strength you built in the waiting. High five. Pressure prepares you for motion. Pressure is uncomfortable. It feels heavy. It feels overwhelming. It feels like everything is demanding more from you at once. Responsibilities increase, expectations rise, challenges multiply. And sometimes you wonder why life feels so intense. But pressure is not sent to break you. It is sent to build you. Pressure prepares you for promotion. Before every new level, there is a stretching. Before elevation, there is testing. Before responsibility increases, capacity must increase. And capacity grows under pressure. Think about how valuable materials are formed. Gold must go through fire to remove impurities. Diamonds are created under extreme pressure deep within the earth. Without pressure, they remain ordinary carbon. With pressure, they become priceless. In the same way, pressure reveals your potential. When everything is easy, your strength remains untested. Your patience remains shallow. Your discipline remains undeveloped. But when pressure rises, your true character is exposed. Pressure forces growth. It pushes you beyond comfort. It challenges your excuses. It demands maturity. It requires focus. Promotion without preparation can destroy a person. If you rise too quickly without being strengthened internally, you may not survive at the next level. Pressure builds the internal structure to sustain external success. When pressure comes, many people try to escape it. They complain, they withdraw, they give up. But what if the very thing you are trying to avoid is the training ground for your next blessing? Pressure strengthens resilience. It teaches you how to handle stress without collapsing. It teaches you how to think clearly under tension. It teaches you how to remain calm when expectations are high. Every leader faces pressure. Every successful person has endured seasons where the weight felt unbearable. But instead of breaking them, it sharpened them. Pressure refines your decision-making. It forces you to prioritize. It forces you to eliminate distractions. It forces you to become disciplined. Without pressure, potential stays dormant. When life feels intense, it may not mean you are failing. It may mean you are growing. Muscles feel sore when they are developing. Minds feel stretched when they are learning. Spirits feel challenged when they are being strengthened. Pressure also reveals weak areas in your foundation. It exposes habits that need correction. It reveals fears that need to be confronted. It uncovers insecurities that need healing. And once exposed, those weaknesses can be addressed. Promotion requires stability. Stability is formed under pressure. If you cannot handle pressure at your current level, you will not be able to handle the pressure at the next level. Every promotion brings greater responsibility, greater visibility, greater accountability. The strength you develop now will determine how well you carry what comes next. Pressure teaches endurance. It teaches perseverance. It teaches you how to keep moving forward even when the weight feels heavy. It also builds confidence. When you survive difficult seasons, you realize you are stronger than you thought. You discover abilities you didn't know you had. You recognize courage within yourself. Pressure is uncomfortable, but it is purposeful. It removes complacency. It increases focus. It sharpens skill. It deepens faith. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Consider asking, what is this preparing me for? The level of pressure often matches as the level of promotion. If the weight feels heavier than usual, it may be because you are being prepared for something greater than usual. The stretching you feel is expanding your capacity. Pressure teaches you to depend on God rather than your own strength. It reminds you that you cannot carry everything alone. It builds humility. It builds prayer. It builds surrender. And as you endure, something changes inside you. You become stronger. You become wiser. You become steadier. You become ready. Pressure is not your enemy. It is your preparation. It is shaping you into someone capable of handling the breakthrough, the success, the responsibility, and the influence that comes with promotion. One of the most difficult lessons to accept is that God's timing rarely matches our expectations. We want immediate answers. We want quick breakthroughs. We want doors to open the moment we knock, but divine timing operates on wisdom, not urgency. Divine timing is always perfect, even when it feels late. There are moments when you look at your life and think, should be further by now. You compare your journey to others. You measure your progress against timelines you created in your mind. And when things don't happen according to your frustration begins to grow. But God does not measure time the way you do. What feels delayed to you may actually be right on schedule in the bigger picture. If something comes too early, you may not be ready for it. If it comes too late, it may no longer serve its purpose. But when it comes at the appointed time, it aligns perfectly with your growth, your environment, and your destiny. Divine timing accounts for details you cannot see. It considers the people who must be in place. It considers the lessons you still need to learn. It considers the strength you must build. It considers the doors that must close first. Sometimes you are waiting because certain pieces are still being arranged. Timing is not just about you. It involves alignment of circumstances beyond your control. Think about seasons in nature. Winter cannot rush spring. Summer cannot demand autumn. Each season arrives at its proper time. And when it does, everything functions in harmony. If fruit appears too soon, it may not be ripe. If harvest is rushed, it may be incomplete. The timing determines the quality. In the same way, blessings released at the right time carry stability. They last. They are sustainable. They are meaningful. Impatience can lead to premature decisions. You might force opportunities that are not meant for you. You might accept relationships that are not aligned. You might chase paths that are not prepared. Divine timing protects you from premature movement. It prevents you from stepping into situations before you are ready. It shields you from consequences you might not foresee. It ensures that when you arrive at your next level, you can remain there. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually mercy. You may look back one day and realize that if certain things had happened earlier, you would not have been equipped to handle them. You may realize that what felt like waiting was actually protection. Divine timing also builds patience and surrender. It teaches you to release control. It reminds you that you're not responsible for orchestrating every detail of your life. Your role is obedience and preparation. God's role is orchestration. When you trust divine timing, anxiety begins to lose its grip. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop striving endlessly. You begin to rest in the assurance that what is meant for you cannot miss you. What is delayed is not lost. What is promised is not forgotten. What is aligned will arrive. There is peace in trusting divine timing. Peace replaces panic. Confidence replaces confusion. You begin to understand that every season serves a purpose, even the ones you don't fully understand yet. Sometimes the timing feels inconvenient. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it challenges your patience. But perfect timing rarely feels comfortable in the moment. It only makes sense in hindsight. You may not see the full picture now, but one day you will look back and realize that every delay, every pause, every closed door, and every waiting season was part of a perfectly arranged timeline. Divine timing does not fail. It does not forget. It does not miscalculate. It aligns, it prepares, it positions, it releases. And when the moment comes, when everything finally shifts, you will understand that it could not have happened any other way. Fear is loud. It speaks quickly. It creates worst-case scenarios in your mind before anything has even happened. It magnifies problems and minimizes possibilities. It tells you that you are not ready, not qualified, not capable. It whispers failure is inevitable and that stepping forward is dangerous. Faith, on the other hand, is often quiet. It requires intention, it requires focus, it requires choice. When you are in a waiting season, when your breakthrough has not yet arrived, fear will try to dominate your thoughts. It will say, what if nothing changes? What if this is as good as it gets? What if you are believing for something that will never happen? That is why faith must be stronger than fear. Fear is natural, everyone experiences it, but fear should not be the decision maker in your life. Faith must lead. Faith must speak louder. Faith must stand taller. What could go wrong? Faith focuses on what could go right. Fear magnifies obstacles. Faith magnifies God. Fear paralyzes. Faith mobilizes. If you allow fear to control you, you will hesitate when you should move. You will retreat when you should stand firm. You will give up when you should persist. Fear tries to convince you to abandon the promise before the breakthrough appears, but faith reminds you of what God has already done. It reminds you of past victories. It reminds you of prayers that were answered. It reminds you of doors that opened unexpectedly. Faith draws strength from history. Fear lives in imagination. Faith lives in assurance. Fear creates scenarios that may never happen. Faith anchors you in truth that does not change. When uncertainty surrounds you, fear wants to fill in the gaps with negativity. Faith fills in the gaps with trust. Strengthening faith requires intentional effort. You must guard your thoughts. You must reject negative assumptions. You must speak life over your situation even when evidence is limited. Faith is not denial of reality. It is confidence beyond reality. It acknowledges the difficulty but refuses to be controlled by it. It sees the obstacle but believes in the possibility of overcoming it. There will be moments when fear feels overwhelming. Moments when doubt creeps in. Moments when anxiety tries to tighten its grip. But those are the moments when faith must rise. Faith grows when it is exercised. Every time you choose trust over panic, faith strengthens. Every time you continue forward despite uncertainty, faith deepens. Every time you declare hope in the middle of confusion, faith becomes more resilient. Fear weakens when it is confronted. If you constantly feed fear with negative thoughts, comparisons, and worst case scenarios, it grows stronger. But when you feed your faith through prayer, reflection, gratitude, and remembering God's promises, fear loses power. Faith does not mean you will never feel afraid. It means fear will not control your decisions. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in faith despite fear. When your breakthrough seems delayed, fear will try to convince you to settle. It will tell you to lower your expectations. It will suggest that you stop believing so boldly. But faith says, hold on, stay steady, continue trusting. Faith keeps you anchored when emotions fluctuate. There will be days when you feel confident and hopeful. There will be days when you feel uncertain and discouraged. But faith remains constant because it is rooted in something greater than feelings. Fear is temporary. Faith is sustaining. Fear looks at the size of the problem. Faith looks at the size of God. Fear says, you can. Faith says, with God, you can. When faith becomes stronger than fear, peace begins to replace anxiety. Confidence replaces hesitation. Stability replaces chaos. You begin to walk differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to think differently. You are no longer driven by worst case scenarios, but by unwavering belief. And when fear knocks, faith answers, because your breakthrough requires bold belief. It requires steady trust. It requires a heart that refuses to surrender to doubt. Faith must stand taller than fear. Faith must speak louder than fear. Faith must remain stronger than fear.